transfer pricing documentation and strategies you should have. And she actively conducts workshops even in her own firm, so we can expect a lot of wisdom coming in during her lecture. She will be taking us through FAR analysis, comparability principles, search of uncontrolled transactions, and general principles of documentation. I think again one of the fundamental sessions which we have, based on which the other sessions will be very useful. Before I request her, may I request Paraswari to offer memento as a mark of our gratitude to her. May I request Vaishali to begin the presentation.
Thanks a lot for the kind introduction. The topic for today is functional analysis and comparability factors. So the way we are going to discuss this topic is the function asset risk analysis. We try to understand what the tested party concept is, what are the comparability factors in time permitting the general documentation principles. Now, why is a functional analysis so important? Now, in transfer pricing, you know that the concept of transfer pricing itself is so very subjective. And it is all about business and business dynamics which are so complex for any person to understand. So the crux of transfer pricing is explaining your business to the tax authority, because whichever country you are in, you have to prepare a documentation for your transfer pricing transactions, and your documentation has to be self-contained. It has to speak for itself. So if you haven't prepared an adequate documentation, we have seen that in the litigation assessment process, the company people or the consultants have to go and explain the business functions, things in detail. So we want to avoid those kinds of situations where company technical people have to go and explain things. So it is better that your FAR, as it is known as, is prepared in a very detailed manner. And functional analysis was very important even for a consultant, because it helps you to understand the business of the client, to advise him correctly. Because transfer pricing is not only about compliance, it is also about how you structure and plan your transactions. If there are some inefficiencies in the supply chain, because of transfer pricing you can rectify them. So transfer pricing and functional analysis, its key aspect, is important because it helps us to understand and document the economic activities which are performed by that company and also the overseas entity. So what happens in transfer pricing is you are going to allocate the functions amongst the companies, the assets. You have to identify what are the risks which each entity is undertaking, and based on that you decide whether the profitability that is left with each entity for whatever is their function is adequate or not. So that you are helped by the FAR analysis. So after you have understood, it helps you to characterize the activities of that entity. So if you have done a functional analysis, we come to know whether that entity is a software developer, whether it's an IT company developing some very high-end intangibles and it should get additional remuneration. It helps you with the characterization. It helps you to determine whether, ultimately the objective is to determine whether the transfer price is arm's length or not. So it helps you to choose the comparables, the methods, and to arrive at the correct conclusion whether it is arm's length or not. So what are the key aspects in a FAR? It is the functions, the assets, and the risk. Because more complex the functions, the more investments you made in the assets, higher the amount of risk that you are taking. You may either have two very high profits or you may have very low profits. So your profits could fluctuate. On the other hand, if you are a very simple entity, having very simple functions, very simple assets and risk, then the tax authorities may expect you to have a kind of foreseeable profit rather than having a fluctuating profit. Now, what is the purpose or the objective with which a functional analysis is undertaken? Now, if we see our rules, whether we see our transfer pricing rules or the transfer pricing rules of the other countries, more or less they are very similar because transfer pricing is very similar even internationally. Some aspects will differ from here to there. So when you prepare a transfer pricing study report, you have to give an overview of the group, what the group is, what kind of business the group is generally into, overview of the company, because it may happen that you may have a particular transaction in the company, but there are many other activities that the company undertakes. So you try to clearly create a distinction that, okay, these are the activities we do, but this is something that is crucial for the purpose of our analysis. It also helps you to gather information about the organization. So when you start doing the FAR, you have to understand at the group level, at the company level, what are the activities which this particular entity is doing. So for that, you will have to conduct the functional interviews, which we will discuss in detail later on. So once you have understood the group, the company, what business is into, you have to understand its transactions. Because it may happen, as I mentioned, that there are a variety of activities the company undertakes. Let us assume it is doing manufacturing, it is doing trading, it is doing some services. But it may happen that the intercompany transaction is only in the service element. So let us assume it's an independent manufacturer doing its own business, it's an independent distributor. So your FAR and your business description of the company should be such that it explains to the person reading that, okay, these are things which are unimportant, it is doing, but it is not something that is relevant for the tax people. But it's only this service transaction which is very critical, and then you go and explain that service in detail. So once you have explained all this, it helps also to, once you have characterized the company, selected the method, it also helps you to choose the appropriate profit level indicator. So what is a profit level indicator? It's the end of your analysis where you determine what ratios you are going to use for reaching conclusions. Whether it's going to be OPTC, operating profit by sales, whether it's operating profit by cost, fixed assets, or whether you're going to, instead of doing P&M, do some gross profit analysis by using resale price, what kind of methodology you are going to use. So all that becomes important because once you have done the FAR, you've understood everything, and it helps you to select the method and the ratio. It helps you to identify the comparables. And as we go forward, we will try to see each of these aspects in detail. So how do you conduct a FAR analysis? So based on my experience, we have seen that these are all the aspects which you should be aware of and you should try to document in your transfer pricing study. So as I mentioned, the starting point would be to know what are the transactions. So let us assume your transaction, as I mentioned, was rendering of software development, and you were buying certain products and distributing them in India, and you were also buying certain raw materials for the purpose of manufacturing, you are paying certain know-how. So how do you identify the international transactions? Now the transactions are purchase of raw materials, payment for the know-how, purchase of finished goods for trading, and rendering of software development services. So you have identified your transactions. So the next step is identify who these entities are with whom we are transacting, because that is what even the law requires you to do. So raw materials, which are the entities from whom the raw materials have been purchased? There may be 4 or 5 entities. So you will have to document those entities. You are paying know-how to a particular entity. You have to also at times do functional, because we are so focused on the Indian entity, we tend to ignore the functions of the overseas party. But especially where you are paying know-how, or maybe where you are paying the management fees, IT fees, the various case laws suggest that you have to prove what are the benefits that you have received, whether there is substance in that transaction. So you have to do a functional analysis of the overseas entity also. Try to understand what is the know-how that you are acquiring from this entity. For example, you may be manufacturing a certain textile machinery, and you are dependent on that technology on your counterpart. So whether there are certain patents that the overseas entity has for this technology, what are these patents about? Is it certain process which is much more efficient than that of the competitors, or is it for certain component of that machinery which adds value to that machine? So these are certain aspects and know-how which you may have to understand. And it's not very easy to do functional interviews of overseas entities because of cultural differences, language differences, the laws being different. And we have seen that especially when it comes to patents and all, the overseas is not very, very comfortable sharing that information. So to whatever extent, information which can be shared publicly, try to document that. Similarly, if you're doing something on IT or management fees, so is it just certain key people costs that are being allocated to you? Like there may be a CEO or a CFO who's sitting globally, there may be a head of HR who is sitting overseas. So are these costs being allocated to you? What are the basis of allocation of these costs? What is the reasoning? Like they will be attending certain board meetings, they may get qualified as shareholder activities. So the tax authorities in India are not going to allow you a deduction for those. So whether, in these kind of situations, even the overseas entities do their own functional analysis documentation, whether you can have an access to those kind of documents and see whether these kind of activities have been excluded, whether the cost have been correctly captured, allocation bases are correct, what is the indicator that has been used. So these are the kind of analysis at times the officer may want you to do. So whether it is better, instead of trying to gather these kind of documents in the assessment process, it's better that your documentation also speaks of these kind of activities. So that is about the entities and the transactions. Now coming to the functions. So you have documented the functions of the Indian entity as well as the overseas entity to whatever extent it is possible. The next is the assets. So suppose if they are renting certain IT function to you, what are the assets that they have invested? Whether there is certain server that they have, whether there are certain softwares that they have developed. Like we have seen in most of these multinationals, there are these standard softwares that they develop in-house which they want the group to use. So whether those kind of softwares are there, what are the assets? Sometimes they give you access to their brands, trademarks, and you also make payment for those. So because they may have hundreds of brands, how many of those you are using, how many of those you have been licensed to use, and whether actually those are being used. So asset analysis will become critical. Similarly, risk. So why is risk important? Like the example that we discussed, you are paying them certain know-how. So what is the risk involved in that? You are a manufacturer, you are doing your manufacturing operations. You will also have certain amount of risk. Like for example, you have the inventory risk, you have to utilize your capacity, so there's capacity risk. You have your own cost overrun risk. You are dependent on him for the technology. So these are the risks that you have, and his risk, he has developed the technology, he has to ensure that it is up to date, develop new technologies, protect those technologies, ensure there is no infringement. Those are his functions. So what are the functions both the entities are doing is what the risk analysis will also highlight, who's taking more risk here. So here he also has certain risk. Now it may happen that you pay him as a percentage of sales, so he also has a market risk, because if your sales are not performing, he has certain costs there which he has to recover. But because maybe his technology is not good, or for whatever reason the sales are not happening, his recovery is also impacted, so he also undertakes market risk. So he is also undertaking risk, and there are certain risks that you also undertake. So that helps you to decide the payment strategy between the two entities. Similarly, agreements and terms. In most of the situations we see that except for multinationals, most of the Indian MNCs are not so particular about agreements. But increasingly more and more emphasis is being given to agreements in the litigation by the transfer pricing officer. And especially in the multinational setup, along with agreements, they have a proper global policy also. So if you can get certain access to those policies, we have seen that increasingly we get access to those kind of policies. So when these things become important, like let us take an example of this manufacturer, where let us assume he's not charging know-how, but there are certain raw materials he's buying. So let us assume that his turnover, he's manufacturing the product using this imported raw material. There is huge amount of domestic raw material also which he's buying. He's manufacturing a product and selling that fully in India. Let us assume his turnover is around 80 crores. The imported raw materials are around say 3-4 crores. Significant say 15-20 crores are domestic raw materials, and he has his own manufacturing expenses. And let us assume because of whatever reasons he has incurred a loss. Now, if you see this situation, it is very difficult to use a T&M method in this, because in T&M you will have to identify what are the reasons for the losses, what are the differences that are there between you, comparables, whether you are startup, capacity adjustment, you make all these. But whether, along with all this analysis, if you realize that the overseas entity in the raw materials has charged only say a markup of 5 to 8% on their manufacturing cost, which is materials, labor and factory overheads, whether that group policy can be shared, some kind of authentication by means of a certificate, auditor certificate you can do. That also helps you a lot in assessment, and we have seen situations where these amount of transactions, wherever they are lesser, 2 crores, 3 crores, and these kind of loss situations are there, these kind of documents have helped us a lot in litigation. So that's where these international policies, these agreements, these kind of certifications are extremely helpful. And this also can form part of your documentation. Also, you need to understand in the functional process, the organization, the staff. Because increasingly there's a lot of litigation around, what are the activities which the entity is doing. For example, you may feel that you are an IT-enabled company, you're just doing certain low value addition companies, low value addition activities, but the transfer pricing officer may classify you as a KPO. He feels no, your team is adding a lot of value to the activity. So in these situations, the analysis of staff becomes very helpful. What are the kind of qualifications the people have? Are they all data operators, graduates, or maybe just less than graduates, or are they all engineers and all software developers? So your analysis of the staff also plays a very important role. So we had a live situation where one of our company was just doing a very low-end activity where they had to access the database and do certain reference checks for the employees before they were appointed by anyone in the US. So in the US, they have a central database of people. So suppose an employee leaves an organization and he has left after certain issues. Those all get documented on those databases. And in that database, there are all those records that come from various agencies. So this entity was just accessing that database and just kind of preparing a report. So the officer was of the view that this is a KPO because he wanted to take very high-end comparables and use markups of 40–50%. But when we gave him the analysis of employees, all these employees were graduates or maybe they were just interpass and all those, which clearly highlighted that there was nothing valuable that was happening. It was just a low-end processing activity. So That's important because if you are doing any FAR, whether they are engineers, whether they are, because there are certain BPOs, though you feel it's a BPO, they employ very high-end people. So your characterization may conflict even the kind of employees that they have within the organization. The next is the forecast and the business plans. Now the forecast and business plans also become very critical, especially in loss-making situations. And we have seen that it's not necessary that just because a company has loss, adjustments will happen. There are some officers who want to know that, okay, if you are a distributor and you are undertaking certain risk of developing those markets, you are a startup distributor, they want to understand